So the next reader is going to be Ashley Steineger.
Hey, I also have some poetry. I wasn't expecting to get called, so I have it all over the place. I had a dream last night, and I woke up and I wrote a poem on my arm, and I was going to read it, and I was so excited, but then I bathed because I thought that was more socially acceptable. So I'm going to have to go from what I have. All right. The first poem is kind of a spiritual poem. I'm going through kind of a spiritual time in my life, so I have a lot of poems about that. It's called Maybe God. I think God will come like a soldier home from war, who rings the doorbell and stands in a slackness of uniform, cradling a bloated duffel bag between polished boots. I will answer the door, a swollen-eyed baby, having been yanked from the womb of my despair. The corners of a smile will divert tears, and I will ask, "Where have you been?" Or maybe, God, "Why did you go?" I think God will come long after curfew, plump with drunken wisdom that will not make sense until morning. When we sit in heavy, neglectful silence, consuming a breakfast of coffee and cigarettes, I will ask, "Don't you remember me?" Or maybe, God, I'll say nothing. Perhaps God will be the attractive stranger fingering a back-issue New Yorker in my therapist's waiting room, deliciously misunderstood, who, so deep in my illness, becomes the thick cigarette smoke in my lungs, my paradoxical lover. I will most likely ask, "What's your name?" Or maybe, God, "What are you in for?" Of course, I have to think maybe God won't come at all. I will stand on the arms of a wooden pier, making eyes with the ocean, as everything that has ever existed is pulled back out to sea, and I will say, "It was nice to meet you." Or maybe, God, "I wish we could have known each other." All right. I was frustrated writing poetry one night, and I think probably everybody can relate to that. So this is a short one about my frustrations. It's called "The Night I Threw Vonnegut Through the Wall." Someone needs to come and tend to the wall. Last evening, weary of talented poets, a book-shaped hole was stamped into its teeth. I punched revenge into the unassuming one of four that boxed me in, and now my only copy of Player Piano is somewhere between apartments. Let's see. I'm a big independent coffee shop fan, independent bookstore. Someone was mentioning Starbucks, or I think you had Starbucks in that. So I decided to read a poem called "The Fall." It's about my frustrations with Starbucks. And Starbucks exploded, the whole chain. They say karma sparked it. And for 2 days, it rained macchiato. On the third day, they rose again. The caffeine addicts danced in the streets, the crooks of their arms aimed at the sky, playing Ring Around the Latte, eager mouths gaping. The decaf among us shielded ourselves with day-old pastries and paper cups, screaming, "Alas, Babylon," and eventually went into hiding. The half-calves yelped in black confusion. Some converted, fell to their timid knees to praise the omnipotent mocha gods, while others died upon their stirs, hardened plastic hara-kiri. It was awful. Businessmen with important leather briefcase were electrocuted by Bluetooth, toppling in democratic puddles, vying to keep a space in line. Women in Manolos and shoes licked the brown splatter from their heels and hurled slingbacks through store windows, bawling, "Who will watch the children?" There were riots. I grabbed almond biscotti from cracked jars, spears against the protest. You spiked and dyed your hair, tried to fit in with real baristas. They told us, basic training starts at the emo club downtown. Don't delay. The world was torn. Small children in polo asked, "What is fair trade, Mama?" The hedonists, all of us, wept for inconvenience for the death of coffee monopoly. Independent shops opened their doors and people drove the extra mile with the urge to find an opposite, waiting at wooden checkers tables, whispering in the organic dimness, "I hear they found a cappuccino mug as far north as Greenland." All right. I'm a big nature lover too, and every time I see like a hurt bird or squirrel or whatever, I have to, my roommates get really angry because I'm always bringing something home. But this one's called Red Bird. Ask me what I did today so I can tell you I played God. One of my opera cardinals, the lady who sang to me on my tenement porch escape, flew into a car window and bled through her eyes the same crimson as her underfeathers. I saw her as I drove for coffee, driven into the curb, blind and spasming in the initial stages of death that last hours. Because she sang so beautifully, I killed her. Stopped my car, removed my new red gloves from the trunk. I told her as I approached, "Don't be scared, bird. Friend." I scooped her up with both hands. Because she sang so beautifully, I placed her under a tree. I said, "I cannot help you anymore." Her song bled away into the brush. And because she sang so sweet and true, I broke her neck under my boot, watched her death instincts flap around until she ended prostrate on a magnolia leaf. If you ask me what I did today, I will tell you I played God. And I will tell you, always sing beautifully when God's around. That's that. I was going to try to end on a happy note, but I don't know if that will happen. I did have one prepared, but I feel as though if there's children in the children's section, that wouldn't be appropriate. This one is called Interviewing Soulmates. There's not really much background to it. It kind of speaks for itself. Interviewing Soulmates. Number 1. Yesterday, I resolved my birth trauma in the damp basement of the Unitarian Church. Interviewing soulmates. I prefer survivors from the dissociative fugue of insanity to fill the trench that runs parallel to my life. During the interview, I was a complete circle of breath. A bug on my face left the message, one light, one reality, innumerable perceptions. Number 2. Maybe elsewhere. I walked to a poetry reading where deep, attractive souls debated the social disconvention of wearing pajamas to church. One asks, "Only God can punish. We are all God." The fundamentalist stands in front of Hitler with full knowledge and a loaded gun. He does not shoot. The Unitarian with the same information pulls the trigger. Who did the moral thing? Interviewing soulmates, no one here was interested. The answer to their problem was pluralism. 3. My ethical gyroscope leads me to the door of an ex-lover. The old apartment where souls like us painted walls the same translucence as energies. Tidewater blue, lapis lazuli over corners, unable to contain auras, or indigo like the children. By night, he decided not to apply for the same gig twice. Number 4. Interviewing soulmates, I seek the passion of the moth who, so enthralled with flame, becomes sacrifice in the uncovering of secrets. 5. I find a coffee shop and, over the last cigarette, wrestle with the suggestion that soulmates do not exist, failing to convince myself I will never understand, and scratching idly at the mosquito whose bite just proved me otherwise. Thank you.